that doesn't feel like home. What do you do when this happens to you and you don't know who you really are? Well, today I'm going to talk to you about the trauma of being uprooted, um, of losing your cultural history and identity. This is a pain of trauma that you're growing up in a world that wasn't yours. Whether it was placed upon you because of work or because of family, it wasn't your choice. So we're going to talk about it today. Let's do that. You see, the trauma of growing up in a place that you have no idea about is physically and it's emotionally deep. It cuts very deep. I know coming from an area in my life, when I came up here to New York from Alabama, and it was a big transition. Um, I didn't know because I was young. I suffered, you know, anger issues. I was crying all the time, very sad and lonely. I didn't know what it was when I was younger because, those things you do what your parents told you to do. Wherever your parents went because they were responsible for you, you had to go. So I didn't think about it was growing pains. They say to you, oh, you have growing pains, right? But growing pains are just that. I'm growing somewhere. It's like a plant. I'm being ripped up from somewhere and being supplanted somewhere else. And now I got to get acclimated to the ground. I got to get acclimated to the sunlight. I got to get acclimated to the weather. I got to get acclimated to the wind. All those things now change. And I'm in a different community. It doesn't just reflect your roots, it's a reflection and of your what you see, how you feel, but all of it is distorted. You're you're constantly shape shifting. So when you're in this, you're this planted somewhere new. You're constantly trying to see, well, what's the environment like. So I have to move where the environment is. I have to act the way the environment is. All of that is internal. So you're constantly shape shifting to survive. Suppressing your tone, you had to tone your voice down. Maybe, act like they act because you're not really sure where you are, right? What your truth is, you're not sure. When I came to New York, people asked me, well, had never seen braids before. And they was like, well, what are those? How did your hair get like that? I was like, oh, my mother did it. And but they didn't understand the culture. So to be accepted becomes a second nature, not the first nature, the second nature. But in the process, something essential happens to you. Your internal identity is in turmoil. Your ancestry, your customs, your essence starts clashing the vision of you that's performing to survive externally. It's a quiet war inside. Most people around you don't even know, don't even see it. You weren't just growing up, you were splitting. And I know for me, I was splitting into this is my background. This is who I was with. Now I'm not with. And I'm here having now to transition that. So you can see where, you can actually see or now understand how a teenager feels when they are ripped from what they know to somewhere they don't know. All because we as adults have responsibilities and we have to take them. We don't think of those things when we're adults, but that's a different um, conversation. But we're talking about just being in a cultural divide, coming from one culture to the next. I have several friends who are come from a different culture, Caribbeans, Trinidad, things like that, and they often talk about they can't understand, and still as adults, they can't understand how people are, and how people, would treat other human beings because they weren't raised like that, and um, they still are, grappling with cultural identity. They're still uncertain on, you know, their hair, their face, their color, their talk, their accent, just being part of this world, this universe, this America, and it's unsettling because they're splitting. And I came here a long while ago when I was young, so I had some time to adjust and learn and educate myself. But in real life, when you're going through these things, you don't have time to educate yourself. You don't have time to learn. You don't have time to figure it out. You have time to adjust. That's it. You don't know why you're acting this way. You don't know why that you see people when you're wearing your natural hair. People, like I just told you about myself, wearing my natural hair. You don't know that they're. It's not that they're unaccepting of it. It's just that they don't know. They've never seen anyone like you before. So it's not concerning or troubling. It's just that they're intrigued. And so when we interpret that, we intrigued to us means like unacceptance because we're in a new land. So what do? We change the way we look. We kind of adapt. We become ashamed of ourselves, of who we are. We try to modify our accent so that we blend in and not cause attention. We tend to, accept what we're given because, hey, we come from somewhere else. And so whatever the scraps they give us, it's good. It's what we're supposed to get because we're from somewhere else. And being supplanted is a challenge. It's a challenge because, again, you're splitting yourself. So what I wanted to talk about was those identity shifts and just realizing those things in yourself, right? Just realizing them. Now, the second thing is that when I was forming friendships, right? And I'm in a new place. First of all, it's the first time I'm going to a school, so it's different for me. So I'm trying to understand, like, this is a new place, and what do I do with this? So coming from an area that my family was all that I knew, and I was being, taught at home, now I have to have social skills, which I didn't have any. So now I had to learn how to be social. So coming to the second part of this is the bonding period. Bonding becomes shallow when you are supplanted or transferred because when you're not whole, the bonding or the relationships, they're not complete because you're really not sure who you are. So what I find as adults is what we do is we bond relationships by buying relationships, by accepting abusiveness or bullying and being friends with those type of peoples because you think that's the way that friendship is because you haven't experienced it and because you're not whole yourself, so you start to build these relationships on shallowness because surface, that's all you know. So even how you build relationships starts to shift. You don't bond them from your truth because you're not true to yourself. So how can you absolutely be true to somebody else? How can you absolutely be true to a friend? How can you absolutely be true to someone that you're romantically involved with? Your bond is through performance. You give to hoping to be seen, hoping someone will touch the real you underneath all that. And you give that responsibility to the individual that says, yes, I will be your friend. And you call them to a standard that they're not even aware of because you don't even know yourself. You're not even consciously telling them that I don't know how to be a friend because I'm not really sure who I am. You see, I came here from another country or came here from another state. I came here culturally shocked. And I'm looking for to you to satisfy my every need, to do exactly what I want you to do. I'm looking for you to perform the way I expect you. No, not expect, but I need you to. So when your soul is hidden, so is every connection. It feels transactional, conditional. And that ache that you feel, that endless desire for more from people, it's scary. That's your roots calling out to you, saying, this, you're not going to get it here. You got to go back to the roots. Like any tree, any plant, you have to go back to the roots. That's the version of you that you never had, that you never fed, that's crying out for something real. The third piece of this is the pain of being given away. So, I'm not talking about adoption. I'm talking about you're with your family, whether it's in the US, different state, whatever, and you're ripped from that area to the next. It gives you a sense of being given away. Some of us were supplanted, uprooted from other areas in the pretense or the wording of you'll have a better life, they said. Maybe it came from love. Maybe it came from sacrifice. But here's the truth. You weren't just relocated, you were traded. Kind of sounds familiar for those of us who are people of color, right? Traded for financial stability, for a chance at survival, and even if your outer life got better, your inner world went silent. You were you were taught to perform, and you were caught between two places. You were taught not to feel, to adjust and not question. Going back to the teenager who we get this financial, opportunity to rip them out of their lives, just tell them we're leaving, no time, just we're leaving, and they're uprooted from all they know. Think about that. And I'm going to tell you when a gardener, a real good gardener, when they uproot plants, they get them prepared to go. They turn the climate up to wherever they're going. They make sure they're ready. We as humans don't even do that for other human beings. We don't prepare them because, again, we're saying we're in survival mode, so this is going to be a better life. But we don't even get them ready. So now when somebody shows up for you, or doesn't show up for you, excuse me, when you need them, it doesn't just disappoint you. It re-wounds you. It triggers the original rupture. And the friendship ends. Just like that. Not because you're demanding, but because you already sacrificed too much to settle for surface. Because you wanted them to feel that root problem that you have of not knowing yourself. And they weren't aware that they had the job. So let's take 2 steps back to you. So, what do you do? One is grieve what was lost without justifying it. Let yourself name it, mourn it, don't sugarcoat it. Opportunity and trauma can coexist, and healing begins the moment you stop minimizing your pain. And I've seen it and I've experienced it for myself. And I'll tell you when I experienced that is when I was in my late 30s. Did I start digging myself out from all the garbage that people told me who I was, told me what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And one day I looked in the mirror and I looked at myself and I pushed my hair back and I said, who am I? And something just said to me, cut all your hair off and start to remove everything. And I did. I got down to the bare bones. I actually called my nephew over to cut my hair off. Cut me to number 1, all the way down. I need to discover who I was. And let me tell you, it wasn't overnight. It was as long as my hair was coming back. And I was processing my hair at the time, straightening it. And each time it grew back, it had a different coil, right? So I was like, this is not normal. And I had to keep cutting it over the next 7 years in order to actually see the real root. Now, in all of that I was doing, not knowing what I was doing, I was literally fixing my internal, internal psyche, along with my haircut, And I stripped myself down and looked in the mirror and I said, I have to learn to love all of me. It took me a very long time, but I had to love all of me. Without all the dressing, without all the stuff on it, I had to love all of me. And that's the split. That's the split that we have, is that we don't love all of us. So I had to return to myself, grieve what was lost without justifying it. So I had to grieve the fact I didn't know who I was, because I was putting on nails, I was painting my face. Well, I didn't really paint my face, only when I worked because I was a model, and processing my hair because I believed they didn't want coily hair, they wanted straight hair. I was doing that, and I was acting a certain way because I thought they wanted it that way. I was acting another way. I was coding all over the place and wasn't even sure who I was and what I really wanted. What I really wanted. I just coded to make sure everybody was good. The second thing to do to step back into yourself or back to yourself is ask yourself, who was I before I had to perform? And let me tell you this. I had to go all the way back to the age of 5. To that kid that fell, busted an eye, got back out, and kept going. To that kid that learned to ride a bike all by herself. To that kid that made the mud pies and asked people to try it and didn't care if they didn't like it. I had to go all the way back there. I had to go back to my original self, that, my real hair, loving myself no matter what happened. I had to go back there. I had to really do that. And I had to reconnect with myself, because even with the music, I didn't know music. So I had to reconnect with what I liked, because I was listening to music because other people like me liked it. And I had to go back to, how I spoke, what my accent was, or whatever it was. I had to go back to that. What foods I really liked, because I was eating foods that maybe other people liked, because that's what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And my memory of those times felt like home and comfortable and like, this is good. This was good. So I started practicing radical self return. Return to yourself. Speak the truth. Speak the things that make you feel whole again. No, not HOLE, but WHOLE. Whole and holy, HOLY again. You have to choose spaces where you don't have to shrink. And as I got older, I learned that, in my 40s and my 50s, I started saying, hey, I don't want to be in those spaces that I have to pretend to be somebody else, to pretend that what they want from me. I don't want to be in those spaces. I don't want to be around people that, if I go into that circle, this is the only circle there is, the best circle there is, and you can only affiliate. I don't want to ever be in those spaces. If you can't like me for who I am, where I am, how I speak, how I, exhibit my energy, then I'm in the wrong room. I'm in the wrong room. So I don't subscribe to those spaces anymore, that I have to shrink down and be somebody that I'm not. Um, the Almighty created me in all of my beauty. And if because let me just tell you this, there's stars in the moon, right, in the sky, right? Each star shines bright. None outshines the other, but they shine in their own space. One don't kick the other out of this space. They shine right where they are. And there's no excuse. There's no asking them, oh no, you got to move down because you're shining too bright on me. No. For years, the North Star has been where it is. No one said, or no other star said, hey, you got to move. So I just, came on today to share with you, under all the hair, under all the makeup, under the eyelashes, the nails, even for the men, just under all of that stuff, under the suits, under the rings, under the watches. Who are you really? And when are you going to get back to that person? And when are you going to stop coding and start to be who you really are? That's the question for Sunday. This is a Sunday message. When are you going to get back to that person? When are you going to say, hey, I deserve to be me? And all the chaos around you will cease when you start to embrace your real self. If you're tired of being uprooted, that's the wake-up call for you. You can call me when you're ready to return to yourself, to grieve, to reconnect, to heal. As a life coach and speaker, I help individuals and groups reclaim their voice and gain roots and find peace where the trauma left chaos. You know what to do. Hit the link in my bio or reach out to me on my website, ednawhite.com, and let's start this journey back home. We all need to be ourselves in order to be a complete world. Bye for now.